Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tailgate Outdoors. I am Dan Casper, your guide, your host for every episode of Tailgate Outdoors. Don't forget, if you've missed an episode or missed part of an episode, you can always check it out on the Tailgate Outdoors podcast, available wherever you listen to your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify, and it's also available at sportstalk1051.com. If you just got a few seconds, if you listen on like Apple or Spotify, if you could give it a 5-star rating and a positive review, that would be awesome, because that helps spread the word, gets the podcast out there for more people to find. We're switching gears. We've talked a little fishing in the first couple of weeks and such. We're going to focus a little bit on hunting right now, because my next guest, well, he can help some of your hunting lands out there. If you've ever had questions about, oh man, should I do this for a food plot? Should I put a water hole in here? I need some help with some land management. Well, I've got the perfect guest for you. Tim Kaiser from Whitetail Partners is joining me this morning. Tim, first of all, thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks for taking some time, and I'm excited to learn a little bit more about what you're doing right now. But first off, good morning.
Good morning.
So Tim, I've known you for a while now. I mean, golf, softball, and now you're in the outdoors world here too a little bit. So first of all, why don't you tell us, what is Whitetail Partners?
Yeah, and thanks for having me. This is a long time overdue. We've talked about this for a while.
Exactly.
Yeah, Whitetail Partners. So we are a team of whitetail habitat consultants who help landowners optimize their property for whitetail hunting. There's 8 of us on the team now. We're regional consultants, so we're located all over the country.
Okay.
We've now worked on properties in about, I think the count's up to 25 states.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we've been all over the country. My region here in this part of the woods is Wisconsin, Minnesota, and then the UP. So I cover that territory, and really the idea is, land throughout the country is different, and so you want to work with somebody who is regional and kind of understands how things work in your neck of the woods.
So when you talk about, with consulting and that, are you talking food plots? Are you talking, hinge cutting or anything like that? What's kind of a basic rundown of what you help landowners with?
It's all of the above and more.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I think that is a big value add when you talk about bringing an expert in to consult on your property is every property's different, and we can all go down the the YouTube rabbit hole of all the topics that you mentioned, right? Hinge cutting, food plots, water holes. But it's having somebody who has the expertise to look at your property as a whole and say, these are all the tools that we have, but what ones are best for your property? Just because somebody else did some burning on part of their property, does that make sense for you and what's going on with your property? So we have that experience, we have that expertise to kind of say, as we make improvements to your property, as we put all those things in place, they're all going to work together and really make sure that your property fits as a whole.
So what was it, how did you get involved in this? Or was hunting and the outdoors kind of always a passion for you to get involved in this area?
100%, yeah. I've been hunting since I was, I think we had to be 12 when we first started hunting back in the day. And that started for me just, public land, sitting on the ground, hunting with my dad. But it was 2019 got my first lease. And that really changed my perspective on hunting is now it's like, it's not just showing up and hoping a deer walks past. It was, I can put in a food plot. I can start to make changes that can actually impact how deer use a property. And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me is it's not just hunting, it's this year-round hobby or passion that you can start to develop. So bought my first property the next year and started doing some land management of my own, started kind of consulting for some friends and kind of stepping into it slowly, but met Sam Billhorn, who's the founder of Whitetail Partners, and he and I developed a friendship and, kind of talked about eventually moving into the space. And now 2 years ago, I started with Sam, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. We were kind of talking a little bit off the air and such, and you mentioned, time of year when consulting is really busy and such. And you mentioned, is it mostly you do a lot of it in the winter, it sounds like, or like late winter sort of thing?
Yeah, it's designed to be done in the off season of hunting. We don't want to be on your property when you're trying to get ready to be out in the woods.
Right.
So it's right after season. I'll start working with people as soon as, the week after gun season here in Wisconsin. So be on a property early December, get as many done as we can before the snow gets too deep, and then pick it up again in February, March as the snow starts to melt, and do as many properties as we can before green up, really.
Right.
You can do it after that. But it's hot, like I mentioned to you, ticks, bugs. So I'll do a few over the summer, but really the best time to get it done is when you can see the whole property and walk it.
So you mentioned kind of take maybe a little peek about it behind the curtain. Did you just kind of walk around and assess like the property and such? I mean, because I'm glad you mentioned every property is unique, because I've done it. I've gone on YouTube or whatever. I'm like, okay, does this type of food plot going to work for my area? But there's so many other soil types or, that sort of stuff. And one thing may not work in that, whatever I watched on YouTube. So like for your process, is it just boots on the ground? Essentially, you're walking through that property and just assessing what the person has?
Yeah. So let's say you hire me. It's kind of a twofold process. The first step is we're going to spend a day on the property together.
Okay.
And that's going to benefit in a couple ways. For me, that's my chance to really see what does this look like, right? We can tell a lot from topo maps. We can see from aerial photos, but there's little subtleties. What does the age of the forest look like? What is the soil type, as you mentioned? What's the historical sign? I get a chance to really see the property and feel it for myself. But also for you as the landowner, it's your chance to pick my brain. It's your chance to kind of see some of the concepts that might be in your plan at the end of the day and start to kind of understand what those look like. So we spend the day together. Part ways, I go home, and over the next couple weeks, I start to build that plan for you, that design, ultimately what your property should look like and how things are going to lay out. And at the end of that, you've got a full 3D mapped plan of your property, right where everything should be. So here's where we want deer to bed. Here's where we want them to move through. This is where those food plots are going to be, water holes. And then also, where should our stands be? How are we going to get to those stands? Because those are such important details when it comes to actually being successful in the woods.
Right, exactly. So you mentioned, you serve Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan. I mean, are they all similar, areas? I mean, you're not going out to like Alabama or anything like that, obviously.
No.
So is it pretty similar between the three states?
There's similarities to all of them, but I think, even in Wisconsin, you just look at within 90 miles of here, right? There's some farm country, some rolling hills. But as you move north towards Hayward and north of that, it flattens out a little bit. It's a lot of big woods. So even within this area, there's a lot of different habitat types. And so you got to be well-versed in all of those. And what I'm doing in farmland is very different as far as what I'd recommend for someone than someone who's up in the big woods.
Right. So when you first started, was it a lot of trial and error for you, just kind of like experimenting with some things, or did you do a lot of research ahead of it? Because you mentioned when you got your first property, you kind of started to do that. What was that like, just to kind of kick it off and get going with this area?
Yeah. Funny thing is, a little bit of trial and error, but when I bought my first property, I hired Sam to come out and do my property.
Yeah.
I had followed his stuff for a while, but a common thread there, and something I see a lot with landowners, is I just bought this property. I don't want to screw it up, right? I have an idea of what I think should be done, but is that right? And so even if you already feel like you have a pretty good understanding of some of these concepts, let's get a second opinion, right?
Right.
And either validate what I have in mind, or, gosh, I think we need to change things. So I learned a lot from that experience with Sam. And then, he's kind of been a mentor to me as I got into this more, but that's been the other advantage of the team of 8 of us is, hey, I'm not familiar with burning, but our guy in Kansas does a lot of wildfires, prescribed burns. So I can kind of pick his brain, and we can all share knowledge, and that really helped accelerate that learning curve.
So when people are looking at properties and such, is the biggest thing that you've kind of encountered, or is it mostly food plots? Is that like the biggest question people ask you, or is there something else that a lot of people ask you about?
Yeah, that's what everybody wants to focus on, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's fun. I love food plots too.
Yep.
But the reality is, there's so much more to it than that, and it's making sure that you have a healthy forest, that there's that natural cover and browse for the deer. That's a big part of what we do, whether that's just cutting some trees down or having a logger come in and anything in between. I think those are the things that people maybe aren't as well versed in. That can be really important. And to be honest, when I design a property, usually my favorite stands are not on food plots. They're on those travel routes before those deer get to food plots, or they're closer to bedding areas. That's really, to me, is those travel corridors is what makes up a lot of your best hunting opportunities.
We're going to take a quick break, but we're going to have more with Tim from Whitetail Partners coming up after these quick words. All right, we're back with Tim from Whitetail Partners, learning a little bit more about Whitetail Partners and consulting to help out. So when we talk about this, is it just to get the bigger buck? Is it to help the deer population? Is it all the above? What's the ultimate goal for Whitetail Partners?
That's up to the landowner, right?
Yeah.
So some landowners are like, I'm seeing tons of deer, but I'm not seeing the bucks that my neighbors are shooting, or it used to be better and now it's not. So we may be more strategic in trying to create habitat that's conducive to holding bucks on your property.
Okay.
For other people, it's I just don't see many deer. What can we do to change that? And so maybe then we're focusing more on larger food sources just to pull the deer in. But that's the beauty of this. It's not one size fits all, and what's right for one person isn't for another. And that's really where we try to focus on getting to know the client and tailoring it to exactly what they want to see.
So what I mentioned in the previous break, talking about food plots and such, but what's maybe one of the biggest, I don't know if error is the right word, but maybe one of the biggest things that landowners are maybe doing wrong that you guys have found that where you've really kind of helped them out?
Yeah. Number one that I see on every property is access.
Okay.
Yeah. And I tell people that right away. If there's nothing else I could do for you, but I could help clean up your access and make sure that when you're getting to and from stands, you're not bumping deer or informing deer of your presence, that alone would make you more successful.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part of every plan is a stand isn't worth any good if you can't get there and get out without bumping those deer. And so that's a big part of the piece of the puzzle.
I'm glad you mentioned that too, because there's a lot, that's an issue that I've always kind of wondered about, is that access, like creeping in, whether it's a bedding area or such too. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is something that I've always kind of self-doubted with myself too. And I would say that's probably something like a lot, because I go back in when we were younger. You ride the four-wheeler trail.
Yep.
Your stand's probably right next to the four-wheeler trail, right? And you go up in there and you call it good, essentially.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's kind of the old school model of hunting. But as we've learned more, especially about trying to hunt bucks,
right.
We have to be really careful about those things. So, understanding where deer are bedding, understanding where your wind is blowing, and making sure that you're getting in and out, that's a huge part of it. So when it comes to design and kind of relating it back to what we do, it sometimes is, hey, deer like to bed here now, but let's see if we can change that. Let's move them over here so it's much easier for you to get in. So it's really kind of a dance between knowing where the deer are and also making sure that maybe we can put them in a more productive spot for you.
So you mentioned the design aspect. So say, like, okay, I love to design, Tim. Where do we go from here? Is that, you mentioned, a logger and such. Do you help out with that, or what's the next process after you give me this map and this game plan, and I'm like, I'm ready to go?
Yeah.
What do we do after that then?
Yeah, we can be as involved or as hands off as you want to be. So I have some landowners who say, this plan's awesome, I'm going to go tackle it, and they just get after it, and maybe it takes them a year or 2 years or 5 years, but they're going to do everything on their own. And that's great. We're there to kind of support them if they have questions along the way. I get text messages from guys out in the woods, hey, should I cut this? Should I cut that? And that's great. We'll continue to support them. But other folks are like, I don't have the time or the interest or the experience to do some of these changes. Can you help me? And it can be, one or two things on that list that they want to change, or it can be turnkey. We take that plan. We do entirely everything for them. It's turnkey. They hunt in the fall and don't have to worry about anything else.
So when you mentioned a little bit earlier when you hired Sam to come on your property, was there something that he showed you or recommended to you that you kind of maybe never thought of or kind of caught you by surprise? Was there something like, oh, dang, I never knew that, or man, I never thought of something like that before?
More than one thing.
More than one thing?
More than one thing, yeah. No, Sam's fantastic. And at that time, I was kind of early in the process. But I touched on it earlier, and I really think just the biggest thing that Sam focused on and is such a core part of all my designs is those travel corridors. We just have to know where deer are moving between bedding and between food, and how we can hunt off those opportunities.
I was looking at your website a little bit earlier too, whitetailpartners.com, and there's so much info. I mean, there's like courses, information on there too. I mean, so anybody can kind of go on your website and check out some of that info and learn more about it. Like I was watching a little bit of a YouTube video and such on there. I mean, there's a lot of information.
Tons of information. Yeah. The whole team has kind of combined our efforts and our knowledge to create that database of knowledge for you. And we have that with your, not only on the website, but if you hire us as a client, on the plan, we also have a report that comes with it, and it's just a huge repository of all that information. So it's not just what's in the plan, it's how to do it all. And that's what I love is when landowners kind of take ownership of the plan and get excited to be part of that process.
Right. I got to imagine too, like when you work with a landowner and you get the game plan, and then you find out the results, whether it's a year or two later. I mean, you're a dad. I mean, it almost feels like, are you proud dad almost in a sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Best part of the job.
Yeah.
Best part of the job. Favorite memory from this fall was a consult from the previous year. Father and a son, we spent the day together, and opening day of gun season, I get a text at like 6 o'clock that night, and they're sitting there. They had a picture of the two of them together. They had both shot bucks.
That's awesome.
And Ed, for them to explain that experience to me and walk through it, they're fired up. I was just as fired up. Like you said, it's almost like a proud dad.
Yeah.
So that's the best part of the job.
It's one of the awesome things I think about the outdoors, especially hunting, is the stories.
Yeah.
Is sharing the experiences with others. I mean, all the different memories and such. That's one of the unique things that, I mean, again, we were talking about when we were 12 or younger and all that, and still to be able to think about that. But that's one of the awesome things, too, I think about with hunting is that you feel happy and proud and excited for others when they have success in the field too, right? There's not that competition aspect of it.
No, there's not. And okay, so you hunt. I'm sure on your property that you hunt, you've got 12,000 stories about what happened here, what happened there. And that's the same thing when I go on a landowner's property is we walk past a tree and they're like, oh, hey, that's where Uncle Jeff shot that buck back in, this year. And I'd love to hear those stories and building that, part of changing your property is you're also leaving that legacy, right?
Yeah.
You're creating something that you can hand down to your kids, and those stories just continue to develop. And that's really what it's all about, right? You shoot the buck and it's exciting for a day, but it's those stories that live on that are really what's fun.
Yeah, because on our property, we've had it for a few years now, but like there's an old board on a tree here, an old board there, and I love seeing old remnants of tree stands because then I always wonder what happened there.
Yes.
Did somebody get this big deer there or what, exactly. Like I love, because I love history, and I'm always imagining what that guy or what that person saw sitting in that stand back in the day. Yeah. It's just so cool.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, we see some doozies on people's property, some old stands. I joke I've got to start like a calendar I take pictures of all the crazy old stands that I find. It'd be fun to put a book together sometime on that.
That would be cool. Nice little coffee table book of old deer stands and such. So, well, Tim, I want to know a little bit more about you here, so we kind of do a little bit of a lightning round type of thing here, and then before we let you go here in a little bit, but right away, do you have a favorite hunting memory?
Hunting memory?
Yep.
Not deer hunting.
Okay.
But turkey hunting.
Okay.
Last spring, my 9-year-old daughter got her first turkey.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Shot plenty of deer in my life. Adding all that excitement up doesn't even come close to that feeling of your kid getting a deer or a turkey. So it was awesome.
I took Hudson for the first time last year. He sat with me for the second day of deer rifle season for the first time, and I'm already geeked up about like waiting for him to have that success. He's like, I'm like, hey, dude, we're gonna have to get up at 4 a.m. He's like, okay, yeah, and he suits up and he walks out. He had more energy in the truck going over there than all of us. We're like, okay, maybe we missed out on getting you out here earlier and stuff. So it's different how it changes when you get older, right?
It's the best.
It is. Yeah. It is. What is your biggest deer? Can I ask you?
Yeah, I think, and I'm not an official scorer. I think it was around 135.
Okay.
Yeah. I try not to get too hung up on the numbers because what's something that you'd be proud of, and where I hunt compared to Buffalo County is totally different. Right. But I felt just as good about that deer as somebody who might shot a 170.
Exactly. Are you a bow or gun guy? If you had to pick one,
archery all the time.
Archery. Yep. I'm the same way too. So, what's your dream hunt? It could be any animal.
Oh, dream hunt. I would love to get an elk someday with a bow. Got some buddies. We're going to go out next fall for the first time. I don't expect it to happen that quickly, but eventually that would be the goal.
Where are you going to go?
We're going to Colorado.
Oh, that's my number one bucket list.
I can't wait.
Like for me, mine is elk too. I feel like I need to take the rifle because I might get too nervous with the bow.
Yes, that's a big animal at close quarters,
right?
Yeah.
And just being patient, calling that thing in. I mean, I got to imagine. I've heard them obviously, but actually hunting one and having that bugle call has got to be one of the best. I mean, yeah, you get chills, right?
Yeah.
You get chills thinking about it. It's got to be one of the. I get chills when I'm calling a turkey and that thundering gobble in the woods.
Yes.
But having the elk bugle, oh man, that's got to be so cool.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
That's awesome. So, so that's your bucket list item.
Yep.
Right. So, is there like because you're fishing too, right?
Yeah,
Are you a little fish out
just
there?
got back from Canada actually.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to Canada
I
right
know.
now.
It's a good time to go.
Do you have a bucket list for fishing?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't know if I have a bucket list. I'm more of a recreational fisherman.
Yeah.
Love to do it, enjoy my time out there, but not something I really work on. Mm-hmm. I'm going to bail out on that answer.
Do you have a favorite? And again, I know it depends on the area.
Mm-hmm.
A favorite type of food plot? Like, is it clover? Is it buckwheat or anything like that?
Yeah.
What?
Okay, here's a really specific one for you.
Okay.
There's a time period, usually like late September, where all the beans are starting to dry up, and you go drive around and you can't see a deer in any of the soybean fields.
Yeah.
And then you drive past one alfalfa field that's green, and it's just packed. And so that's like, if I could be on that alfalfa field on that like 5-day window where they're just hammering it, that you can't beat that.
Yeah. Alfalfa. I'm going to have to remember that one.
Yeah, it doesn't get used as much, but it can be, for that little window, it can be awesome.
Awesome. Water holes, are they a bit, because I've heard this more in the last few years. I've seen, again, YouTube and that, people are putting them in there.
Yeah.
Is it one of the more underrated aspects of land management, do you think?
Yeah, they can be. I think the underrated part, people know that deer use water holes, but they think it has to be hot.
Right.
And it's not just hot. As the season goes on, and those leaves start to dry up, all that moisture leaves the corn and the beans and even everything in the trees. They need that moisture or that hydration, right? And so now those water holes start to become an attraction. Even it's 30 degrees in the middle of November, they still need water. And that's where I think that people don't think about them, but they can still be a great place to sit.
Hunting superstitions or traditions?
Every year, kind of nerdy, but I pick a song. Different song every year that I listen to in the truck, last thing I listen to before I get in the woods.
For every hunting trip or just... Or is it
every sit. I have to listen to that song before I go into the tree stand.
Really?
Yes, and I haven't picked it for this year yet, so we'll see.
How did you come up with that?
I was like 16, and my buddy and I used to jam out to the song every time before we got in the woods, and then it just kind of started to become a tradition.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's not Fred Bear, is it?
It's been Stranglehold before.
Okay.
So another Ted Nugent song.
Yep.
Yeah, it's got to be something that gets me going a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. Do you have any any other like traditions? Like, like for rifle season, everybody's got to have a Debbie cake. The Debbie snack kick or anything like that. Is there anything like that for you?
Yeah. So my dad and I hunt together every year, and he always has to put Mounds bars in the freezer.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it started in the truck, and they just froze right back in the day, but now we got a cabin, so they go in the freezer. That's kind of our fun treat. And then the other one we have is opening day of archery season every year. Bring both my girls out, load it up with coloring books and snacks. I don't know if you can really call it hunting, but we go sit in a blind together, all of us, and just watch deer. And that's I look forward to that as much as anything. That's
awesome. Well, just to kind of wrap it up here, because we're running out of time here, I want to get back to Whitetail Partners. So anybody listening right now, they're like, okay, I need some help. I need some help with my land management. What's the best way to reach out to you or to Whitetail Partners?
Yeah, you can go to the website, as you mentioned, whitetailpartners.com. You fill out a little form, and no matter where you're located, it gets routed to whoever covers that area. So I'm assuming most people listening around here are going to be routed back to me.
Yep.
But maybe you have property elsewhere, we can handle that as well. Otherwise, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media that you have or that you like to use, you can find us on there.
So, like, if anybody has questions, obviously land stuff, but, like, Tim, what kind of tree stand do you recommend or something like that? Is that something that you can help out a little bit there, too?
100%. Yeah. We do offer, like a 2-hour Q&A session where you can just ask me anything. We do coaching throughout the season. Even if you're public land and you say, hey, let's put a plan together as far as how I want to hunt or what tree stand should I be using? We want to meet you guys where you are. We want to help you out. We all love hunting, and we just want to make everybody enjoy it more.
Absolutely. So, again, that website is whitetailpartners.com. And, again, there's a learning center on there. I mean, you can check that out. Testimonials. I mean, I'm getting jealous looking at all the deer sizes on there and such. So, well, this is awesome. Tim, big thanks for stopping by this morning, and we got to do this again soon, maybe closer to hunting season
Yeah,
or such, too.
I'd love to do that.
And maybe closer to consulting time, too, right? Because you could still consult right now, but the best time's maybe a little bit later on, because you don't want to do it during hunting season, right?
Yeah. You get a hold of me now, and we'll probably try to book something for December and get the ball rolling for 2026.
Awesome. Tim, appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Dan.
Best of luck in the, at fishing, I guess, right now,
Yeah.
right? So, best of luck, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
You got it.